The United States is arguably one of the most unique nations in FIFA World Cup history. From reaching the actual semifinals way back in 1930 to now preparing to host the biggest World Cup ever in 2026, the journey of American soccer is it's an epic tale. It is filled with stunning surprises, heartbreaking setbacks, and truly unforgettable moments. Hello and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this explainer on today. We're going to dive deep into the complete, highly dramatic history of the U.S. men's national team on the world's absolute biggest stage.
So let's just dive right into it. What exactly defines the legacy of American soccer? To answer that, we really have to consider the sheer roller coaster of emotions this program has endured over the years. Think about it. How does a nation with 11 World Cup appearances build a lasting legacy? Well, it's built on far more than just wins and losses, that's for sure. It's forged through this crazy mix of world-shocking surprises, incredibly agonizing heartbreak, and moments of pure, unadulterated triumph that have literally sent millions of fans into an absolute frenzy.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be looking at early World Cup glory, the long World Cup absence, the return to the stage, iconic modern goals, and finally, setbacks and new generations.
All right, part one, early World Cup glory. We are going way back in the history books here. Back to an era of heavy vintage leather footballs and massive, roaring crowds. The birth of USA World Cup history actually starts with a massive bang in 1930. We're talking the inaugural FIFA World Cup down in Uruguay. In the US, they didn't just show up, they made serious waves. They secured fantastic victories over Belgium and Paraguay and marched all the way to the semifinals. They officially finished third overall, which, and this is wild, actually remains their best result to this very day. Oh, and during that exact same 1930 tournament, American striker Bert Patin-Node made history. He scored the first ever hat trick in a World Cup, a fact that FIFA officially recognized decades later, back in 2006. But then, jump forward to 1950, and we see what is arguably one of the greatest upsets in the entire history of sports. The United States defeated the heavy favorites, England, 1-0. It was literally a miracle on grass that shocked the international football community and permanently cemented the early pioneer legacy of this American squad.
But as we all know, incredible highs in sports are so often followed by devastating lows. And that brings us perfectly to part two, the long World Cup absence. 40 years. Just let that sink in for a second. For a massive 4 decades, from 1950 all the way to 1990, the United States completely missed the tournament. Soccer really struggled to find a foothold in America during the mid-20th century. The gap between the US and the traditional global football powers widened immensely. The domestic fields were quiet, and on the global stage, the US men's national team was practically a ghost. Honestly, an entire generation of American sports fans grew up without ever once seeing their country compete for the ultimate prize in international soccer.
But hey, droughts are meant to be broken, right? Let's move into part three, return to the stage. From 1990 onward, the U.S. sparked a very real modern soccer renaissance. This systematic rebuilding of American soccer kind of happened in 3 distinct steps. First up, they finally broke that 40-year curse by qualifying for Italy in 1990. Second, they established some serious, consistent momentum. A massive part of this, of course, was the United States hosting the FIFA World Cup in 1994, which brought record attendances to packed-out stadiums. And here's why this matters so much. That '94 tournament, it wasn't just a series of games. It was a profound cultural shift that inspired millions of kids across the country to lace up their cleats. It completely changed the sports landscape in America forever. Then, they had this absolute dream run in 2002, beating Mexico and reaching the quarterfinals. And step 3, showing that this was absolutely no fluke. From 1990 all the way through 2014, the USA qualified for every single tournament. They successfully transformed from complete outsiders into a modern World Cup fixture.
All right, part 4, iconic modern goals. With that kind of consistent presence came some truly unforgettable moments. We are going to dive straight into the actual broadcast calls of the most electric, defining modern World Cup goals. You can practically hear the roar of the stadium.
Let's start with 1994. The US is hosting, the tension is incredibly high, and then absolute magic. Tab Ramos plays this beautiful, perfectly timed through ball, lobbing it right over the approaching goalkeeper and directly into the path of Ernie Stewart. The broadcaster calls it perfectly, "What a delightful pass and what a clinical finish." The US goes up 2-0 against a highly favored Colombian side. That was a massive statement goal to the world. They had officially arrived.
And then came perhaps the most famous call in American soccer history. South Africa, 2010. The U.S. is literally on the verge of elimination against Algeria. We're in stoppage time. They sprint from the back, pushing numbers forward in a desperate counterattack. Clint Dempsey gets a shot off, the goalkeeper blocks it, and then, trailing the play, is Landon Donovan. Dempsey's missed it, Donovan has it, from hope there is glory, he just crashes it into the roof of the net. The ultimate American hero delivering the most dramatic late-winning goal you could imagine to win the group and keep the dream alive. Goosebumps, right?
Then we move over to Brazil, 2014, the USA squaring off against Ghana. Mere seconds, literally seconds into the match, Clint Dempsey takes off, weaves right through the defense, and strikes. One of the earliest goals in World Cup final history. Dempsey cemented his legendary status right then and there. He became a player who had now scored in 3 separate World Cup tournaments. Just a lightning-fast strike that set this super aggressive tone for an epic campaign.
And in that exact same game against Ghana, late in the second half, the game is totally tied up. They desperately need a hero. A corner kick comes floating in, and rising above absolutely everyone else is John Brooks, a player who didn't even start the game and only came on due to an injury. He heads it in with incredible power for the game winner. Pandemonium inside the stadium. Man, it's moments exactly like this that just show the fight, the heart, and the absolute vigor of this squad.
Later in that very same 2014 tournament, against Belgium, we literally saw the future step up. Trailing in extra time, a young substitute is brought onto the pitch. A little flick over the top, and Julian Green connects with a beautiful volley finish. The wonder of youth, 19 years of age. What a special moment. Now, even though the US ultimately fell short in that game, this incredible finish showcased the raw, undeniable talent bubbling up in the American youth academies.
But as we know, the trajectory of soccer is rarely a straight upward line. Let's look at Part 5, Setbacks and New Generations.
The modern era actually brought a stark, pretty brutal contrast. In 2018, there was absolute heartbreak. For the very first time since 1986, the USA failed to qualify for the World Cup in Russia. It was a devastating, totally systemic shock to American soccer. It basically forced a massive reset from the ground up. But you know what? From those ashes came a triumphant 2022 return. A young, super dynamic, and hungry squad, many of whom were playing for top-tier clubs in Europe, engineered a powerful return to the world stage over in Qatar. The bounce back was incredibly real.
And that 2022 return was really highlighted by this absolutely beautiful team goal against Wales in Group B. Christian Pulisic picks the ball up in the pocket, facing forward, driving right at the defense. Timothy Weah makes a brilliantly timed out-to-in run off the back shoulder of the defender. Pulisic slides a perfectly weighted pass right through, and Weah finishes it with absolute precision. A fantastic finish. It was the perfect encapsulation of this new, technically gifted American generation just loudly announcing their arrival on the world stage.
So I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question today. What will the next chapter hold? Because guys, this story is still being written. I mean, from those shocking 1930s semifinals, to the painful 40-year drought, to Landon Donovan's absolutely unforgettable heroics, this program has survived it all. Now, as the United States prepares to host the world once again in 2026, the expectations have literally never been higher. Will this young, hyper-talented generation finally push the United States to true international football supremacy? The stage is completely set, and the next chapter might just be the biggest one yet. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.